Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. And I was just thinking about how this is actually going to feed into something that I'm going to talk about later in my video. But when I first started making videos out here on the front porch, I was like so uncomfortable with people walking by and my neighbors being out in their yard, and I would be like a little bit quieter, and I was so nervous about it. And I'm so comfortable with it now. Like I love sitting out here and filming, and you know, you guys probably see this a lot in my vlogs and other things, but when people walk by, they wave, and I mean, almost everybody in my neighborhood knows that I make YouTube videos, and you know, I'll say to my neighbors, like, do you care if I film a video right now? You're out in your yard. And they'll be like, no, I love listening to you. It cracks me up. I don't know any of the people that you talk about, but it cracks me up, you know. And so I just it's getting from that point of being uncomfortable to being comfortable with something, and I want to talk about that in just a second. I also want to say, and I said this yesterday in my video, and I don't want to, you know, continue to go into it at length, but I'm just loving responding to questions that you guys are asking me. And I just want to say that if I don't respond to a question that you ask in the comment section, it's because maybe I feel like the question is like so personal that I don't want to address somebody individually on the video. Or also because maybe it's something that I don't necessarily have personal experience relating to. So I just wanted to make that clear, that it's not like a personal thing. I'm not picking some people's questions over others. So I just want to make that very, very clear. Okay, so there are two things that I want to talk about in here today. Two questions that I got. Hold on a second. Let me get into my comments. The first question that I want to address, and I get this question a lot, which I think is kind of interesting. I mean, I talk so much about addiction and recovery. I'm kind of surprised that like more people aren't asking it. And I've really never given like a specific answer as to why I don't talk about it. So I want to talk about it a little bit today. And the question is, roughly how many people have you sponsored, and how many do you sponsor currently, if you still do to this day? That's all just straight to the point question. No need to give details, obviously. And then the response is, yes, I'm really interested in hearing more about being a sponsor and how it has had an impact on you personally. I appreciate you can't give details and need to be careful. I'm just asking generally as an element of who you are and if that makes sense. Okay, so let me explain to you guys why I don't talk about sponsoring people versus my having a sponsor, okay? My having a sponsor and talking about doing inventory and doing the work that I do is my experience. I'm sharing my experience, right? Like, I can do that, and I can share, like, oh, these are things that, I mean, it's what I'm working on, right? So I can get in a video, and I can say, these are things that I'm working on with my sponsor, and we did inventory over this, and whatever, right? Like, it's my experience. I can do that, right? Very much like, it was interesting because I got a comment on my video when I was talking about finding a new therapist, and I was referencing how his girlfriend watches my videos, but she doesn't know that he sees me, and it's kind of like this little ongoing joke between us. And as somebody said in the comment section, she knows now, which I thought was kind of funny, and somebody else said, oh, that's exactly what I was thinking, or whatever. Well, she only watches my drama channel. She doesn't watch my Peterisms channel, I believe, because he said she only watches your drama channel. But you know, the reality is, even if she did watch it and she knows, like, I could care less. You know, it's my right as a client, or as a sponsee, to breach my own confidentiality and anonymity at any time that I want to. You know, I can tell anybody that I'm an alcoholic or an addict. The only people that I've ever talked about on here, like my friend Tanya has shared in videos that she's in recovery. So, and I've said, do you care if I share your, she's like, no, I don't care. You can talk about me. She lives it out loud, right? I live it out loud. That's why at times I'll say my friend in recovery or my sober friend, but I don't say their name because that's not my place, right? So, but I can say anything. I mean, if I met his girlfriend, I could say to her, oh, I see your boyfriend as a therapist. That's my place. I can do that, right? Like, I can breach my own confidentiality. He just can't breach my own my confidentiality. I don't care if she knows that I see him, you know, in all honesty. And I've told him that before. I'm like, you can tell her that, and he's like, no, I can't. Like, you know, because of HIPAA and confidentiality, I would never do that and whatever, which I highly respect, which means that he's protective of me as a client, and he, you know, follows the rules and that he is supposed to follow. So I respect that, right? But like, if I met her and she said, you know, like, oh, you know, blah, 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 and I'd be like, yeah, like, I I would have no problem telling her that I see her boyfriend and whatsoever. I could care less. So, but you know, it's the same thing with me sharing stories about my own sponsor. Like, I can share stories about my sponsor. The reason why I don't talk about people that I sponsor is because I don't want to slip and say, and I'm just totally making this up, right? I don't want to slip and say, well, I'm working with somebody and we were doing inventory and they were talking about such and such, and not even specific things. But let's just say if we were saying whatever, like I would never want somebody to feel like I was sharing their story, right? That's not my place. And so I have just made it kind of a rule in talking in videos about sponsorship and recovery and whatever, that I just do not talk about anybody that I've sponsored, anybody. I mean, I think I've referenced one time in a video or twice, like somebody that I used to sponsor back in the day. That's a friend of mine today. Like I've shared that. But as far as like talking about specifically like how many, I mean, I've sponsored quite a few people over the years. I mean, it's just once you have like a year or more clean time, I mean, that's what you do. It's service, right? And recovery. And so I'm not going to get into specifics of how many people I've sponsored, and to be really honest with you, I don't even know that I know, you know, at this point. I think to remain sponsorable, which means that you remain teachable and you remain, you know, growing and learning, that you have to also be willing to continue to sponsor people. I think, so I hope that answers your question as to why I don't say specifically the people that I am sponsoring or who I am or if I am and things like that. And I try to be really ambiguous about that because I want to be very protective of those people, because it's their right to share their story, not mine, right? Even if they came out and said to me, Peter, you can share my story, I wouldn't do it. Just so you know, I mean, it's different with my friend that has been in videos with me. My sponsor is asked to be in videos. She's like, I have no problem being in a video. Like, we can do a video and talk about inventory. And I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. Like, you know, you're my person, and I don't want people like finding out about you knowing. I'm like very protective of her. You know, there have been people out there that have you know, really researched the background of family members and friends of mine and things like that, and I just don't want my sponsor affected by that, and I definitely wouldn't want people that I've sponsored or sponsor to be affected that way either. You know, I mean, that's literally the meat and the potatoes of working a 12-step program. So, yeah, I'm not going to get into all of that, but I can talk about my experience of being a sponsor and what I've learned, and I will say this, is that every time I sponsor somebody, what you basically do, I mean, a sponsor is basically, you're not a marriage counselor, you're not a therapist, whatever. That's why, you know, like, it's so interesting to me when I'll get comments and people will say, you have a sponsor, but a sponsor doesn't fix all of your problems. Like, I don't know that. Like, I haven't been sober 28 years, right? Like, people will come and they think they're really getting in and trying to get nasty with me, and they'll be like, well, you think your sponsor fixes all your problems and blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. I'm fully aware of that. I'm fully aware of that from every sponsor that I've ever had that has said, you know, you need to get outside help, you need to work on this, you need to do that, whatever, right? Like, I'm fully aware that my sponsor is not my therapist. She's not my marriage counselor. She's, you know, I run things by her. Like, I'll take things to her, you know, that I'm upset with or whatever. And she'll, like, and we'll, you know, talk about it, or we'll do inventory over it to the extent that we can. And then she'll say, I think you need to take this to your therapist or bring this up in a marriage counseling session or whatever, right? But she knows her limitations, and any good sponsor does. The truth is that a sponsor's responsibility is to guide you through the journey of the 12 steps, okay? And basically do an inventory with you, process the inventory with you, and take you through the character defects, and also take you through the process of making amends to people, and then helping you do 10 and 11 and 12, which is, you know, continuing to, you know, having conscious contact with your higher power and doing daily inventory, and then being of service to others. And so basically, sponsorship is just a guide through the 12 steps. It's nothing more than that. You know, at times, are there people that become close with their sponsors and become friends with their sponsors or friendly with their sponsors? Yes, you know. Is that a prerequisite for sponsorship? No. Like, you know, I would say that the majority of the sponsors that I've had over time, because I had them for quite a long time, I became friendly with. Like, my sponsor today, she is a friend of mine. My two sponsors that passed away recently, they were friends of mine. But that was like something that happened over a period of years. Like, right out of the gate, we were not friends. A sponsor is not your friend. A sponsor is a guide through the 12 steps, you know? I think that once you've done a lot of intensive work with somebody, and you've spent a lot of time with them, and you've gone out to dinner with them, and whatever, you know, then at some point, I think that friendship is something that kind of comes along with that. Every sponsor that I have ever had has such great boundaries with knowing the difference between being a sponsor and being a friend. And so that's never been a problem. I think I've talked to people that has been a problem with, that have said, you know, like, I've got to be too good of friends with my sponsor and it's a problem today. So, but I hope that answers your problem, you know, like, or answers your question. The thing I will say is that every time I work steps with a sponsee or somebody that I'm working with, and you know, there are people that will say, can you just take me through the steps? Like, I don't necessarily want to sponsor, but can you take me through the steps? Yes, you can take somebody through the steps, and then they may decide later if they're your sponsor or not, right? And so, every time that I work steps with somebody, with another, you know, recovering alcoholic or addict, is a time for me to revisit the text and the information, and is to revisit. I have to tell you guys, this is so funny. So there's this little girl in our neighborhood, and I think that, like, because there's a woman down the street, and she is probably my age, and I think that her boyfriend, like, I think they've been dating for a couple years now, but he's like just started bringing his kids around, and they're like both young, and she rides her little bike like back and forth in front of my house, and I think she's real intrigued with me, like, talking to this camera, because she like rides in front and then she like stops. She's real sweet. When Alex and I were walking to the pool yesterday, I was like, are you having fun? She's like, yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. But anyway, but she keeps on riding by. That's why I keep on looking over to the right. But each time that I work steps with somebody, you know, whether it's that I'm sponsoring them or I'm just working steps with them and they've asked me to do that, you know, it's a time for me to revisit the basic text. It's a time for me to revisit the steps and go through the steps again and relearn these things. Hey, how are you?
Fine. Boy, you're working hard.
I'm working hard, pulling these videos out today. Getting ready to make a salad with my new cucumbers that you gave me.
Oh, you don't eat salmon, but those cucumbers are so good with smoked salmon cream cheese.
Yeah, I'm not a big salmon. I don't eat fish.
Yeah.
Peter?
I will. So, then the husband came out and they said, he said, have you ever taken acting classes? And I said, no. Well, actually, in like 6th grade, I was like part of like this acting group, or it was acting classes, but it was called Young Actors Theater. We did Cinderella. I was the hat maker, I think, or something like that. But anyway, they both said to me, she said, tell your people that, that we said that, because they said, well, if this doesn't work out for you, this YouTube thing, then you could definitely be an actor, a trained actor, because you're so good at it. But anyway, sorry for that disturbance. They're so sweet, though, aren't they? She gave me some cucumbers earlier, and I'm gonna make a salad with it. This is gonna lead into what I'm gonna talk about next. But anyway, and so she gave me these cucumbers that she grew. Like, she and her friend have a garden at her friend's house, like a vegetable garden. Because her friend has more land than her, so she goes over there like a couple days a week, and they like garden them. So she brings all these vegetables, and there's a little girl again riding around. Oh, never a dull moment in the neighborhood. Anyway, for me, every time that I work steps with people, I see new things. I learn new things. I hear new things. They might see things. And, you know, especially people that are early in recovery. I mean, you know, like Tanya and I were talking about this the other day when we went to a meeting, and there were a lot of people that were under a year in that meeting. And it's so refreshing because people that are early in sobriety kind of see things in a different way. I mean, I've been sober for such a long period of time, you know, that I don't see things the way that I did when I first got sober. And so when you're working steps with somebody, or taking them to a meeting, or sitting in a meeting with them, and they share something, or they share something with you, or an observation that they have, like, they see it in a completely different way, and it's like, God, I hadn't thought about that in so long, right? You know, and they have such an appreciation for life and gratitude and stuff like that. So it keeps you constantly in gratitude and in appreciation and in thankfulness of the life that you have, and just staying sober, and things like that were so important to me when I first got sober. I mean, it was just like, to not drink for a day was such a huge issue, you know. And now, to some degree, there are days that I don't even like, I mean, I think about it every day of being in recovery, but I don't think like, God, I'm so grateful I didn't drink today. You know, I always say at the end of the day in my prayers that the thing that I've changed it now. So the thing I'm most grateful for is my relationship with my higher power. But then I go in and I say I'm grateful for my life, my health, and my sobriety. So there's not a day that I forget that. But I don't know that I ever sit out here and just think to myself like, wow, like, God, I'm so grateful I'm not drinking today. Like, I don't like consciously think about that. But when I'm working with a newcomer, or somebody that's working their steps, or go to a meeting with a newcomer, you know, or whatever, then, or hear somebody sharing a meeting, I'm like, oh my God, like, this is a gift. Like, recovery is a gift that most people are never given, you know? So anyway, that's what I get out of it. And I also think that, you know, I've talked about this with like cheeseburgers at Perkins and cups of coffee and things like that back in the day. You know, we have a saying that is giving back what is so freely given to us. And it's my way of giving back to people by sharing with them what was shared with me, you know, and I'm so grateful that I'm able to do that. So that's my answer to that question. So thank you for asking that question. I appreciate it. Okay, the next thing I want to respond to is, okay. Hi Peter, longtime fan and new vloggerino here. Hey, new vloggerino! I wondered if you had any thoughts on how to make friends as an adult, which I think this is such a fantastic question, okay? I moved to a new city a few years ago and just haven't really had any luck meeting new people and connecting. You and Alex seem to make new friends wherever you go. I always love hearing how you're able to connect with people on your vacations. I've always envied that skill. I feel like I often struggle with isolation and would love to know how you've come to create such strong, meaningful relationships. Even if you don't have an answer, I just want to tell you how much I have always appreciated your videos. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I think it's such a fantastic question. I think it's actually a subject and an issue that a lot of people struggle with, you know? I've always wondered for years, like, you know, we have Match.com and eHarmony and Grindr and all the Plenty of Fish and Slide Right, Slide Left, you know, all this kind of stuff. I've always wondered why we have all these dating apps, but we don't have any apps for just, like, people wanting to be friends. And I don't know if that's because they would be misconstrued, you know, but where you could go in there and be like, okay, I like to read cozy mysteries, I like to go to the pool, I like to drink iced coffee from Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, you know, I like to go to the Meijer late at night. And you put in all these things, right? And then somebody could say, oh my God, I love those things too. Like, we should like hang out and be friends. Like, I've never understood why, and maybe there is, and I'm just not aware of it because it's not that well talked about, but I've never understood why there's not like an app like that for like making friends in town that you don't know. You know, back in the day, I've talked a lot about having social anxiety. Back in the day, this is where I want to talk about the being uncomfortable and getting comfortable part. Back in the day, you know, I could never talk to anybody. Like, I could never get out of myself to talk to anybody. I was so afraid. Like, I would walk into meetings and I would put my head down on the floor as I walked in until I sat down. And my old sponsor said to me one time, you know, you're a person of character today. When you walk in a room, you hold your head up high. And it was so hard for me to talk to people because I was always so worried about what people would say and whatever. And actually, somebody just asked me about this on my vlog the other day, and they said they moved to a new town and a new neighborhood. And they didn't know anybody in their neighborhood, but there was a gay couple living across the street. And they thought that they would be fun friends, but they didn't really know, like, how to approach that. And I said, just be honest with them and go over there and, like, I don't know, take them a casserole, which she said she was going to end up taking them dog treats, which I thought was real cute. And just say, hey, like, I'm new in the neighborhood. Like, the neighborhood's rather, there's a lot of older people in here. And, like, I don't really know a lot of people. And you guys seem like a lot of fun. And I thought maybe we could, like, have a glass of wine or a cup of coffee sometime or whatever, you know? I have always found that people are pretty receptive to that. Back in the day, this is what I was going to say. Back in the day, I was going to, like, I always wanted to join, like, a bowling league or, like, a volleyball league or, like, a book club. That's one of the reasons why I started the book club originally before Mel got involved in it, because I would not physically go to, like, a Barnes & Noble or a library because I was so afraid with my social anxiety to enter something like that. But I wanted to be part of it. And so I thought one day, well, why don't you just start an online one? Then you can have a book club, right? But I do think that there's a difference. And, like, you know, a lot of the friends that I've made, like, online have become very, like, true friendships, like Mel and Nikki and things like that. I've made a lot of friends online that have become real friendships. But I also think that you need to have in-person friendships too, you know? I mean, both of them I talk to on the phone now and things like that. We just don't live in the same city. I do think that we need people that live near us that we can go and hang out with, go out to dinner with, and do things with, right? Or what we do is we start isolating, which is not healthy for any of us. I think it's hard to make friends. I think it's really, really hard. I think the older that you get, you know, when you're younger and you're in school, you're forced in a position to be with people that are peers, right? That are your same age. And as you take, like, art classes in high school, or if you play soccer or whatever, you're basically kind of, like, put into these groups with people that have the similar interests as you. You know what I'm saying? Hey, how are you?
Hi, Peter, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I know, it's beautiful today. It's a little cloudy.
Yeah, but still nice.
Come out here. It's not cloudy now.
Out there on the street, it might not be cloudy, but it is up here. Enjoy your walk.
We're loving every minute of it.
Loving every minute of it.
Yep.
But isn't this funny that everybody keeps on talking to me while I'm talking about this video of having no friends? Okay, so, you know, I think when we're younger, I don't know, I never chew on ice. I don't know why I just did that for this video. This is so weird. This video is, like, all over the place. But anyway, when we're younger, you know, depending on whether you play sports or you're in theater or drama or choir or, you know, like I was in photography in high school, like you're drawn towards people that have similar interests as you, and you're kind of put into those groups, right? Which I think is how a lot of people, like, you know, if you look in high school, a lot of people that play football, there are sports or wrestlers or baseball players or hockey or whatever, they're like all friends with like the same group of people. Why? Because they have a similar interests and they're spend a lot of time together doing those things, right? But as we become adults, I think like Alex, like typically his friends are people that he's worked with, which that makes a lot of sense. You know, I said at one point, we spend more time with the people that we work with I'm not talking about today necessarily when a lot of people work from home remotely, but back in the day when we would go into work 8.5 hours a day, we're working 40 hours a week. We're spending more time with our coworkers than we're spending with our family and friends. So it only makes sense that for many of us, like myself, that we become friendly or friends with the people that we work with, right? But then the day I left, it was like I stopped talking to most of those people, you know, and those friendships fell apart. I only have today a few friends in my life, you know. Alex and I have a couple couples that we're friends with, like Melissa and Jason and Aaron and Eric and a couple other people. You know, I have Tanya and I have, you know, a couple friends, I think 3 really close friends in recovery, and then Valerie and Mel and Nikki that I talked to on the phone. Other than that, I don't have a lot of people other than my neighbors, you know. I had to learn. Now, I will say this because you referenced vacation. There is something different about being on vacation and being at dinner or being on a beach and somebody's reading a Colleen Hoover book and me saying, oh, like I've never read, do you like her, you know, whatever. Or I said to this girl that we met, what was the hype about Colleen Hoover? I don't get it, right? Like, it's easy for me to pick out things to talk to people about when I know that they have no preconceived ideas of me. They don't know who I am. And it's just like, let's just talk, right? I don't know why that's easy to me. Like, Alex always says, like, I don't know how you do it. Like, it seems so easy to you. Like, how do you do it? I don't know how I do it. In Indianapolis, I don't do that. I mean, if I was up at the, you know, the IHOP or wherever, you know, eating someplace, like, I wouldn't look at the person next to me. I might, I mean, but it would be so rare that I would do that because I'm so uncomfortable that I don't do that. Now, sitting on my front porch and talking to my neighbors, I really had to push myself out of doing that. It really started at the pool a couple of years ago when I said, I want to know my neighbors. Like, if I'm going to live in this neighborhood, like, I want to know my neighbors. And so I started talking to a lot of people at the pool. And I would just, like, out of the blue, be like, oh, do you live in this neighborhood? Or, it's a beautiful day, isn't it? I mean, just random things I would say, right? And then, you know, I started talking to my neighbors around here and we became friends. And now, as you can see, like, everybody talks to me, right? I think, though, if I were going to give you suggestions of things that, if you don't have social anxiety, are hard for me, I would go join things. I wish, in retrospect, I can remember, like, watching this video years ago. Gigi Gorgeous was talking about, like, when she was in school. I watched this video, like, 10 years ago, and she was talking about, you know, like, she said something like, you gotta belong to things in high school. Like, even if you, like, don't love the people that are, you know, whatever, you gotta belong to programs. You gotta belong to groups and clubs and sports and things like that. And I never did, right? Like, I always said, absolutely not. Like, I'm not gonna do that. I did when I was younger, but not so much when I was older. And I can remember thinking and watching that video and thinking, God, I wish I had been involved. Like, maybe if I had been involved, I would have made some different friends. I love the friends I had in high school, but I would have made some different acquaintances, some different friends. I think the more involved you are, you know, like, Alex gets involved in a lot of, like, fundraisers, and he does a lot of he's on a lot of boards and things like that. He meets a lot of people that way. You know, I mean, Alex could probably have dinner out with somebody every night of the week. True story, right? I mean, last night he went out to dinner with some girlfriends for their birthday. Tonight he's going out with another group of friends for this girl's birthday. You know, so, like, he's constantly making friends. But Alex is also somebody that, like, if he's in a group of people and he meets somebody new, he'll be like, oh, let's exchange numbers and whatever right away. So it's so funny to me that he can't sit on a beach and talk to a total stranger, but he can sit at a dinner, you know, and exchange phone numbers with somebody, and then the next day they're texting, and didn't we have so much fun last night, and whatever, right? So he's able to do it in a more casual setting. I think, like, if you got involved in stuff, find something that you're really excited about, you know? I mean, because most of us aren't going to sit in a neighborhood. I mean, it depends on where you sit. Like, if you live in an apartment or something, you're not going to go knocking on your neighbor's door and be like, hi, I just want to say hi. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't, probably. If I didn't have this front porch where people are walking by, trust me, I probably wouldn't have the relationship that I have with my neighbors, or the pool where I can go and sit and see them. But I do think that if I had gotten involved in book clubs or like a bowling team or like I always wanted to do like a volleyball team. I think like I would have had better experiences of meeting people, you know. I will say this, and this is kind of telling on myself, there is a saying in recovery that is called singularity of purpose, and singularity of purpose means that we are all there to get sober. That's okay, and that there shouldn't be isolation. Like there's a lot of people that don't believe in like men's groups or women's groups or things like that, or specific groups for specific reasons. That and singularity of purpose also applies to like in certain programs that are just for alcohol, that like drug addicts shouldn't go there. I don't feel that way. I feel like if somebody wants to get sober, okay? Like if you want to come to whatever meetings, get sober, right? I do feel like you can be better helped if you're in a program, like if you're a heroin addict and you're going to an AA meeting and you've never drank before in your life, you may not relate to that, so you should probably be around people that are going to relate more to your story and be able to help you more. I do believe that, and that is what my sponsors have said to me in the past. You know, have said to me, like, we've got to direct people to the right programs and help them, you know, find Heroin Anonymous or, you know, whatever programs are appropriate for them. So, but there's this idea of singularity of purpose. Well, that was something that was really big when I got sober, that you didn't go to like separate groups. My mom went to like a lot of women's groups and she loved them. And I never really thought, I thought it was just like a personal decision, right? But because of that, I only went to like a few gay meetings when I first got sober, like a few LGBT meetings. I went to a group that was probably like 10 older men that were probably like my age now when I first got sober. Many of them were closeted and still married and things like that. That meeting was very good. I also went to a meeting at the Damien Center back in the day when I first got sober, that had representation from the entire LGBTQIA plus community in there, and I loved that meeting. But then I felt like I got more from mixed meetings. And what I mean by that is where it's just like everybody together for the common purpose of getting sober. So I never went to specifically gay meetings. I have a lot of friends of mine that like their home group or at least one meeting that they go to a week is a specifically gay men's meeting. And I do think that had I done that a long time ago, and I have to be honest with you, like my sponsor has said, I'll go to a gay meeting with you. Like she's like, I don't care, because women are accepted as well, you know. Anybody would be accepted. You would never be turned away, right? No matter what. And I do believe that in retrospect, had I gotten more involved in the gay recovery community in Indianapolis, and it's one of, to be honest with you, probably one of my regrets, that I would have more, because I don't really have any. I had one a long time ago and we fell out. I mean, not for any other reason other than that we just stopped talking, and his life went in one direction, mine went another way, and he was like one of my good friends in recovery that was also gay. But other than him, I don't have any friends. I had a friend of mine that passed away that was sober several years ago. I've talked about him on here before, that was also sober, and he went to a lot of gay meetings, but he knew a lot of people that were sober and that were gay. I think today, had I started that 20 years ago, going to gay meetings in Indianapolis, I would know a lot of gay men and have friends that were gay men that were sober, you know? And not that I think that that's a huge difference, you know, or a huge issue. Like, a lot of people are like, whenever I say that about, like, it'd be nice to have, like, a gay male friend, people are like, why does it make a difference? You have all these women friends and whatever. Well, you know, I do think that every once in a while, like, it's nice to have somebody that sees things from your total perspective and sees things, you know, that to have a friend that sees things exactly how you see them to some degree, right? So, you know, not just all friends, but I think one, like, it would be nice to have at least one maybe gay male friend. I don't really have any. I mean, I have friends of mine that I had 25 years ago that we talk every once in a blue moon, but not very often, you know? And that is something that I do think about often. Like, well, you could, I mean, there's never a day that goes by that you couldn't go. I mean, there's a gay, you know, recovery meeting in Indianapolis every single day. There's no reason why I couldn't go to one, you know? So it is something that I think about. I think it's about making yourself go from being uncomfortable to being comfortable and doing something, you know? So I would highly encourage you to do things where you get involved and you're going to meet a new group of people, and maybe through that you'll meet some friends, you know? And, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's something that I think about a lot. I also think, to be honest with you, at 51 years old, I feel very blessed to have the friends that I have in my life. I have really quality friends. And, you know, my friend Melissa, she often says, I don't know that she often says, she's like, I don't need a bunch of new friends. You know, I feel so blessed to have the friends that I have. I don't want 20 friends. And she's like, I can have acquaintances and new people that I meet. She's like, but I don't need like new friends. And like the friendships that I have in my life, I mean, these are friendships that I've had for like, you know, 15, 20 years, the majority of them, you know, at this point. And so there's a lot of work that's gone into building these friendships. They didn't just happen overnight. I'm not closed off to making new friends, you know, and travel friends are kind of different, because we continue to talk to these people that we meet on trips and be like, oh, we're going to meet this one couple for New Year's, this couple that we met, that was from where were they? San Antonio, Santa Fe. No, where were they from? No, why can't I remember? Oh my God, Texas. Why can I not remember where they were from? Anyway, it doesn't matter, but why am I like having a total like brain loss right now about this? But anyway, I know as soon as I get off here, I'm going to remember it. And I've said it in videos before that we met them and they were, it's the A word. Why can't I think of it? Austin. They're from Austin, Texas. Such a nice couple, both of them. And we love the husband and the wife so much. They were so sweet. And so we're meeting up with them for New Year's. And the other couple that we met from London, we talk about like planning these big trips. Like they like to go really big places. And so for Alex's birthday next year, if he goes to Bali, we might invite them. We don't know, you know. So it's like we keep in touch with these people that we've met on vacation. And, but it's not like we see them every day or whatever. But I do think it's hard, and you have to go out of your way to make new friends, you know? So, I don't know, maybe you've encouraged me to go to a gay meeting, and maybe, you know... and I have to tell you what's interesting is, when I went to my friend's funeral several years ago, God, it's been like 7 or 8 years now, when I went to his funeral... There were a couple guys there that I did know. I mean, there was probably 5 or 10 guys that I did know just from other meetings and whatever. And one of them came up to me, and he had gotten sober about the same time that I did. And I knew him from other meetings. He doesn't just exclusively go to gay meetings, but he said, there's like a big gay meeting here in Indianapolis that a lot of gay men go to, and he said, you know, we could really use your experience, strength, and hope at that meeting. Like, you have a lot of sobriety, and most people have under a year. Like, we would love for you to come to that meeting. Like, you could be of service. And I thought a lot about that since, but like my social anxiety stops me from walking into a group of people that I don't know, you know. And my job is working through that issue with my therapist and my sponsor, and working through that to get to the other side, you know? So maybe that is something, thank you for bringing this topic up, because maybe I needed to revisit that and think about that. So I appreciate that. And I wish you all the best in making some new friends. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about this video. And I love you. I hope that you are really enjoying your weekend, and that you're having a fantastic weekend, an amazing weekend, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.